What is the maximum amount of damage you can do with $10? Buy ready-to-eat fries at a fast food place. Find an open-air train station or subway station. Next, start feeding pigeons by throwing pieces of potato. So gather around you hundreds of pigeons, hungry for food. When the train arrives, wait until the doors are about to close and throw all the remaining potatoes into the car. The pigeons will fly after it, and the people inside won't have enough time to run outside. Ideally, this should be done either on a route that has very long stops, or none at all, or on a route that goes underground. Repeat the whole process about 15 times. French fries are very cheap. Geez, what are you, a joker? You forgot the point of dipping those fries in laxatives. Yes, but then the costs go up. Which is better to do it 15 times without the laxative or 6 times with it? What a tough choice. If you mean maximum damage to yourself, you can buy a ticket to the movie Cats. You take a glitter for $9.50 and a mark. Then you send the glitter to some lab with elemental conditions. You are the personification of evil. This plan could lead to the beginning of World War III. Better yet, you buy 10 stamps, some flour, and send the whole thing to various government agencies. They'll have to close for sure until they're convinced it's not anthrax, it's flour. This is a real topic. My guy used to work for the Australian IRS, and one time they had it exactly like you said. A letter came in with incomprehensible contents. The building was closed for inspection, and it ended up being flour. You take a $10 for stink bombs and scatter them all over a clothing store. Spend $5 on super glue, and the other $5 gets glued to the floor at the entrance of a cheap grocery store. I knew a dude who welded a coin to the head of a nail and then nailed it to a wooden pier. Every day there were at least 2 or 3 people who tried unsuccessfully to pick it up. Buy a box of ladybugs and scatter them in someone's house. Use the remaining money to get some mint seeds and plant them on the victim's lawn. You'll never get rid of ladybugs completely. Better the fireflies, they are much worse. They make noises on it, and they do have one curious habit. These buggers always hang out in the dark and never come out into the light. This technique works best in the dorms, in which the corridor light cannot be turned off at night, while everyone is asleep, and these little ones will immediately scatter to their rooms, because the darkest place they'll see will be the cracks under the doors. Buy $10 worth of gasoline and pour it out to the nearest drinking water source. Literally a few drops of gasoline will be enough to ruin 1,000 liters of water. Buy a plastic chaise and leave it in the middle of the busiest intersection. We had one of the 6 lanes on the highway stand up for hours that way once. My sister and I once took a bag of cereal from a grocery store and put it right in the middle of the aisle. In the end, it caused such a traffic jam that it reached the adjacent rows. None of the people dared to pick up the box and put it back. Instead, everyone crowded in and carefully went around it. It's funny how people would rather agonize over fixing a simple problem that would help you and others. One of the main sources of my irritation is the phrase, "It's not my job." I don't care if it's your job or not. If you have an opportunity to make this world a better place, and it takes you less than 5 minutes to do it, then be a good motherfucker and do it. For example, I help change tires for people stuck by the side of the road. Why? Because it takes me less than 15 minutes. And if you don't help the person, it takes hours and hundreds of dollars. If you take a sock and fill it with quarters to the amount of $10, you get a pretty good weapon which you can use to kill a bunch of people. Then you better fill it with not quarters, but pennies. Find a couple of 3-year-old goofballs at the supermarket. Show them the money and promise to give it to the person who makes the most people scream. 1. Buy a dead fish. 2. Throw it in the vent of the house where no one can see you. 3. Wait. When I was in high school, we had a smart guy the day before spring break hide a bag of frozen fish in the 3rd floor hanging ceiling. 2 weeks later, we had the whole 3rd floor blocked off and repairs began. The radius of the damaged surface was about 12 meters. We had to replace the entire ceiling and the floor underneath. But that's nothing compared to the smell that was all over the building for the rest of the school year. We had all our classes with the windows open and the fans on maximum. In the summer, the school did a deeper cleanup, but I swear on the 3rd floor that fishy smell was there for another 2 years. Exchange $10 for 1,000 pennies. Going up to the Empire State Building. Make it rain. Better yet, do the same thing, just with bearing balls. Google says their top speed is 117 meters per second. A ticket to the Empire State Building costs more than $10. You can fill up the front window somebody's car caramel. We actually did that to one idiot in high school. Only we had honey instead of caramel. Dude was a real jerk, always messing with us. Flattening our tires, putting shaving gel on our door handles, that kind of thing. We asked him to stop, but it was useless. We ended up taking about 3 pounds of honey and smeared it all over the windows of his car. And for the extra effect, we added a kilo of glitter. It's been about 10 or 12 years since then, but I'm sure he still hasn't cleaned it all off. Change that $10 into 1,000 pennies. Try buying a $10 lunch with it at some busy fast food place. That works everywhere but the US. They just won't accept them here, even though it's legal payment instrument. It's a strange subject. I've heard a lot of stories too that in the US you can be rejected at any time. I guess that's what they invented for such cases when a person tries to pay off by 1 cent. Yes, but if you ate lunch at a restaurant and can't offer them anything but pennies, they have to accept them, because otherwise they'll just lose money. If you look hard enough, you can get an old Nokia on eBay for almost nothing. And as we know, it is the best weapon mankind has ever created. I once watched a very funny picture of a dude standing in the middle of the street and yelling at his girlfriend with old Nokia 6010. "If I ever see you two together again, I'll kill you both." And he throws the poor phone into the wall across the street, then calmly goes to get the phone, picks it up, and keeps yelling at her because the phone doesn't care at all. It didn't even reset the call. They knew what they were doing back in the day. Buy sealant and fill someone's exhaust with it. Or put sugar in the gas tank. Buy contraceptives to your buddy and make some holes in them, being responsible for the birth of another human being. Buy a dead frozen rat at a pet store or where they sell lab supplies, a glass jar and a small bottle of hydrogen peroxide. Spend the remaining $4 on booze to survive what will be after this. Throw the rat in the jar. Pour in about 5 to 10 centimeters of peroxide and about the same amount of water. The resulting mixture should take up less than half of the jar. It is very important to leave a reserve of empty space. Band the jar as tightly as you have the strength to do so. Congratulations! In your hands is the stinkiest bomb of all possible. Predict when exactly it will burst is hard, as it all depends on the room temperature. But a few days will pass for sure, maybe even a week. Communication with the porcelain friend is guaranteed to everyone who is within a radius of about 8 meters at the time of the explosion. If you hide it in someone's closet, under the bed, or behind the couch, then the person will eventually have to sell their house because that smell will never get out. You take a bottle of brake fluid and go to an exclusive car showroom. You spray it on the hoods. Congratulations, the surface is ruined forever. Sounds like a great way to get behind bars. Most showrooms have a shit ton of cameras installed, so that way you're only damaging yourself. Doesn't that apply to just about every comment in this thread? Why do people still think that having cameras leads to automatic catching of criminals? Drawing $10 worth of tap water will come out at least a few dozen liters, right? Walk to the nearest hospital. Pour half on the power source, the other half on the backup source, not taking into account the cost of service from the exact pipe. I pay less than 1/10 of a cent per liter of water. That comes out to about 10,000 liters I can get for $10. This will clearly leave a mark on our healthcare. You buy a giant bag of marmalade bears for $10. Lick each marmalade and stick them on someone's car. When the person tries to peel them off, they come off with the paint. It's best to do this in the heat so the candy melts a bit. You could just peel them off the car. Why waste the good stuff? You take a crack for $10, go to the nearest homeless place, and offer it to the one who breaks the most things in 2 hours. Change that $10 into pennies and pour it into the fuel system of rocket engine. You can buy some gallium. The catch is that even a small amount of gallium can cause a chemical reaction that dissolves aluminum like popcorn in a movie theater. And although it happens all slowly, gallium extremely ruthlessly absorbs aluminum and seeps quite deeply. It would take 10 milliliters and 6 hours to make a hole in 1 centimeter thick aluminum sheet. If you're interested, Google it. So, what's the point? If you, for example, are fed up with your fucking stepfather, it will be enough to have 1 drop of gallium on the hood of his brand new sports car so that it will end faster than you. Good luck with that. And don't forget the safety goggles. Buy a bag of nails and slowly scatter them all over the highway. Buy contraceptives and cheap lingerie. Leave it by some man's bedside and watch the marriage fall apart. Damage to who? Yourself? Then you can have a couple liters of really shitty vodka. It has about the same effect as paint thinner. Why not just buy paint thinner and drink it? Because it doesn't taste good. Set your car on fire and use it to start a fire. I hear the Aussies have a lot of experience with this stuff. It's too soon, buddy. It's too soon. Why not just buy some lighters and make more fires? Lighters? It's better to get free matches and buy 12 liters of gasoline. Try to trade your $10 for something worth $15, then trade that for something worth $20, then $40. Keep going until you have enough money to invest. Then buy a few businesses and create a monopoly, just so you have companies that work within your company. because only then would it not be considered a monopoly by law for some reason. Pay people minimum wage with minimum insurance, if possible, even without it. Necessarily forcing them to stay after work, polluting the air, drinking water rivers, lakes, and oceans. Use third world slave labor. Now take all your infinite wealth and build nuclear weapons with it. That will detonate it somewhere in Jerusalem, and use all your influence to then blame it on the Palestinians and Israelis. Start World War III. And while you're at it, don't forget to use plastic tubes. Thanks so much for watching. In the comments below the video, write down what maximum damage you can do with $10. And don't forget to check out our other episodes. That's it. Bye-bye.